and welcome back to another episode of the Klackz podcast. Okay, today we'll be talking about attraction and sexuality, but perhaps in a more broader sense than people would expect. So when it comes to the topic of attraction, most people think of romantic relationships and even sex, but attraction is not just limited to these things. It actually involves a social and emotional pull towards people, like who we trust, who we feel comfortable around, and how exactly these friendships and relationships start. So even though yes, we will briefly touch on romance in school settings, but that will not be the focus of today's episode. Today, we'll center our discussion around attraction functioning in a school setting like student to student, student to teacher, and more, and how trust, friendship, and connection mediates that. This topic is actually quite significant due to the pivotal role of relationships in human development. The people that kids get drawn to can actually change how they feel about themselves, how they connect with others, and how they are able to get along and fit in. So trust, pure relationships, and environment in the classroom can have an impact on everyday life, including special education. That's also why it is so important to hear from today's guest, Misha. She's actually a friend of the show and is a recent graduate of SIMUB Psychology, who now teaches at Pathlight School in Singapore. She has a background in psychology and has worked with children in special education. So she can definitely offer a perspective that is able to draw links from research to what goes on in schools. So before we proceed, let's ground this conversation with some research. Kiko, would you like to take the honors?
Yeah, for sure. I think let's talk about the 3 articles that we have researched on. So the first article was discussed by Lee and colleagues, and what they did was basically they studied how people perceive trustworthiness from facial cues. So by making use of a trust game, they examined how facial age, attractiveness, and emotional expression, how they are able to influence the participants and how they were able to trust faces that were unfamiliar to them. So their findings suggest that judgments were shaped by multiple cues at once actually, and that older faces were actually seen to be more trusted than the younger ones under certain conditions. They finally concluded that first impressions of trust can form quite quickly and are very influenced by multiple social signals. This connects to our guest as well, because trust and comfort and first impressions really, all these things have a big impact in how children respond to their peers and their educators. Another article that has been researched about was from Rohir and colleagues, and what they did was explore the impact of physical proximity in children's friendship formation, and what exactly is the extent where proximity is very important. In a large randomized classroom experiment involving nearly 3,000 students, they noted that by sitting beside someone, the probability of a mutual friendship increased from 15 to 22%, and this also accounts for the homophily aspect being a barrier in encouraging diverse friendships, with, I guess, gender particularly being the biggest boundary in creating these diverse friendships, particularly mixed gender relationships. Despite this, classroom environment and structural interventions like seating arrangements are said to be the biggest instrument in fostering friendships and still increasing diversity in these friendships. Moving on to the last article by Twenge and colleagues, what they did was ask how has sexual activity changed across generations for young adults. So by using a nationally representative USA survey composed of 26.7 thousand Americans, iGen and millennials were more likely than earlier generations to report no sexual partners after turning the age of 18. Even with age and time period control, this pattern still remains. So this is where they concluded that this actually challenges the stereotypes that younger generations are more sexually active or that these people are part of a hookup generation. So what this does is that it shows that trends in attraction and sexuality to be more complex than the assumptions made. With that being said, this will not be a focus that we will delve into today's interview, especially since Misha's expertise ties closely towards children's development, friendships, and relationships as opposed to young adult sexuality. With all of these taken together, the articles highlight that attraction and relationships are shaped by more than just romance, because the environment, first impressions, trust, and broader social patterns are a big influence in that as well. With that in mind, we are super duper excited to hear from someone who witnesses these dynamics unfold in real educational events.
Without further ado, let's officially welcome our special guest, Misha!
But first, here's a word from our sponsors.
Confidence, aura, irresistible. Sexy spray.
Now back to our usual broadcast.
Hi, Misha. Welcome to our podcast today. So I'm Jian, and with me I have Aidan and Kiko, who will be your interviewers for today. Happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me also.
Okay, to start off, can you just share a bit more about yourself and what you do?
Can. So, my name is Misha. I used to study at the University of Buffalove. I graduated in 2023. Since then, I have been working as a special needs educator at Buffalove Secondary School for students with autism spectrum disorder.
Okay, thanks for sharing. So, in your day-to-day work, what kind of interactions or relationships do you typically observe among your students?
So usually among my students, the typical relationship is all those friendships. So Buffalove school generally, because mostly boys are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, because it's more obvious in boys. So it's a lot of male to male friendships. So we have, because mine is secondary school, so a lot of them is the typical growing up puberty phase. So we have them interacting about different sorts of things on a day-to-day basis. But because we do have an increased number of girls being diagnosed with ASD as well, so it's quite interesting to see when the boys and girls interact with each other also. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I think this sets a good foundation for what we're about to move into. So I think from what you said, there's a lot of different kinds of friendships, right? But from your experience, how do these friendships usually form among these children? The start,
So for secondary school, usually the start is based on proximity. So because usually their classes is just with the same, around nowadays is around 10 to 15 students. So because it's the same students, same proximity, so a lot of them, they tend to become friends with each other, starting based on that proximity. So they have a lot of lessons together, so they cannot see friends from other classes also. So that close proximity actually in a way forces them to talk to each other. And because in day-to-day lessons, they'll share with each other, they'll talk to each other. Then from there, you can see the friendships really form. Mainly among people who have similar interests. But even if they don't have similar interests, it's quite interesting to see how most of them are still able to get along with each other. Yeah.
So even students or children that are quite different from each other, right? Maybe they don't even share the same interests, they will still become friends throughout the course of the...
Yeah, so it will not be best friends kind of thing, but they will still care for each other. So they'll still say hi, they'll still say if anything happens, they'll be are you okay, that kind of thing. So you can still see that there is a level of trust and care that they have for each other, even if they may not have the similar interests. But of course, if they have the similar interests, then it would be more prominent for them to be friends. But I think a good example will be my class. My class, they don't really have similar interests. All of them actually, when we look at it, none of them have similar interests. Some of them like gaming, some of them like painting. But all of them, because they are forced to be in close proximity with each other, and I do tend to make them stay together. So it actually forces them to talk about a lot of different things. So it'll be be it lessons, teachers, talking about other people, other friends. And then it actually has come to a point where they do share about their different interests to each other, even if they do not have that same interest.
Okay. So they grow more interested in different types of interests.
Yeah. In a way, yeah. I think for mine is also because they're in secondary 2. So they're at that stage where they're able to understand where, my friends may not have the same interest as me, but as a person, I should still be respectful to what they like, because it is what their interest is. Yeah.
Then what about gender? So is it more boys with boys, something like that?
Nowadays, I don't think it's very much boys with boys. I think it's a mix, because the population of male to female is the difference is very big. So the girls will actually have to talk to the boys, because some classes may only have one girl and the rest are boys. Then what I can see is that the boys do try to talk to the girls and stuff, and the girls will try to involve themselves with the boys, although they may not be on the same wavelength a lot of the time. But you can see that there is still that mutual care and concern. But of course, one of our concerns is always they are at this age, where relationships and all these romantic relationships come into play. So we try to help them to form genuine friendships first before anything else. Yeah.
Okay, without discouraging the romantic
aspect. Correct, without discouraging the romance also, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll be moving on to the next session, and Aiden will be taking over the interview now. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks, Shian. Okay, so the next question we have is, do you think children make quick judgments about others based on appearance? Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe yes, you can share more about that.
So they very much do. be it friends, teachers, or like anyone around them, the first thing they'll always judge is appearance, because I think for them it's the first perception of them. So like to make yourself stand out is always how you appear to them lah. I think basically how they perceive you first time will always stick with them. Like always stick with them. Especially if you don't have that much contact time with them, that is what sticks with them the most. Like how you look first glance to them. Yeah.
Okay, so like first impressions matter a lot.
Correct. First impressions matter.
Okay. So do children like tend to approach peers who look more friendly, like those who are smiling?
Yes, they do tend to approach those who are more smiling and friendly. But it's also some of them may just approach everybody. But for those more smiling and more friendly, it's also because they are the ones who tend to reach out to others first. So then slowly everybody will be like, okay, this person is an okay person to talk to. Then they will tend to go to that smiling and more friendly person. Yeah.
So there'll be like this like so-called like noticeable difference when this person appears a bit more like friendly and approachable.
It is lah. There is more noticeable difference, but I guess it's in the context of like where I work, it is also like based on like how the students perceive things also. But to them, because a smile means happy, so they'll go to the person because smile means happy. So person is happy, I can talk to person. Yeah.
Okay. Could you elaborate more on like the part where you say it depends on how they perceive things? So like, what are some examples of it?
I can elaborate on that. So I guess it's because it's the where I work and how these students are, right? That a lot of them, they take things at face value. So it's like if I am not smiling for the day, they will immediately assume that, oh, Miss Misha is angry, or that kind of thing. So they take a lot of things at first value and perceive things. So a lot of it, first time they see you is how their impression will be of you, especially if they don't see you that much. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It's very helpful. Yeah. A few more questions though, like on this topic. Like, so, do you think like some children are treated more positively simply because of how they like conduct themselves visually? I think it overlaps a bit with what we like talked about. But
I think it does. I guess the more positive students, they tend to be seeked out more by peers. Maybe teachers may also call out for them a bit more because if you call out to them for help, they'll be more responsive and say yes. So they will be a bit more perceived positively. But I would say that sometimes in where we are, right, those more positive ones will actually encourage other peers to help them also. So like a lot of them want to see more from other peers also. Like, yeah. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Sorry, Kiko, you have a question to ask on this part?
Yeah. I know that you mentioned how first impressions are very important, how people, like facial expressions, how nice they seem to be. I wanted to ask about maybe students who struggle with this, students who may not have that facial expression that's very like approachable, or maybe are very shy. I think that kind of stuff. And I think especially in a school that you work in, I recognize that this could really be a huge potential problem for these students. And I wanted to ask, how are they able to recover from this? How are students who maybe struggle with their own first impressions, their own maybe self-esteem, appearance, how do they eventually build on friendships as over the course of the school year?
And so I guess for one, we do have this lesson called life skills. So during life skills, we cover a lot of the basic things, like for example, regulation. Then in regulation, there'll be things like physical regulation, emotional regulation. So it's a lot of direct teachings of how someone can talk to you, how you can approach someone. So it's giving those like shyer students like script for them to follow, how I want to talk to someone, and then there's this line like, oh, are you free to talk? Is it okay if we talk now? That kind of thing. So in a way, that direct teaching and that script, right, also helps them to reach out to other students. But also in our school, we have a lot of this unstructured time. We have independent work periods, recess times and stuff. So this is also the times when us teachers, we encourage the students to mingle about with each other. So now, especially with the new PED phone ban, right? So us as teachers, we try to encourage more communication within our classes. So we do things such as like, class games, class bonding time. So we bring a lot of games for them to play. Then from there, even those shyer ones, they find that, for example, a common game they all like to play is chess. So they will actually end up bonding over chess. then people will start to seek out the shyer ones like, oh, do you want to play chess with me? I thought you're very good. So that is when they slowly start to build more and more interactions and like friendships with each other. Yeah.
I think that's very interesting, and I think it's very heartening to hear how I think you guys do a really good job in encouraging people to be able to build friendships with these people, initiate conversations with maybe people who struggle with these things also. I also found it very interesting you mentioned the PED ban regarding cell phones. Was this something that was previously a struggle with in your school?
So a lot of them actually, because some of them they find that they cannot express themselves well in words, right? So a lot of them tend to go towards their phone, their laptop to help them. So that's why a lot of them, they are more active in texting, with sharing things with each other online. But now with the PED ban in school, there's no way for them to share their emotions with each other in class. So it has to be like a direct like teaching or writing. So that is where the push really comes in for a lot of the students. Yeah, because you'll see that a lot of them, they can be really, really shy in real life, but then online they're like just texting each other non-stop. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it was intimidating for them at first?
The PED ban?
Like having to express themselves more.
Okay. I would think it was intimidating at first, but I feel a lot of them has eased into it also. Because I do think that at that point of time, their main concern for like my level was why you banned the PED. Yeah. So that was more of their main focus. But eventually, majority of them are still working on it and like understanding why we have this PED ban also. Yeah.
How long has this ban been implemented so
So
far?
MOE implemented it like end 2025. So start this year lah. So they started the new school year with this PED ban.
Yeah, and I think it sounds like students maybe were a bit angry or not happy with this, but
correct.
slowly, I guess they're adapting to it.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. Aidan, you can continue.
So, Jian, do you have any questions or anything?
I think for me it's okay. I just felt that the point about the chess being a common interest or topic that brings children that may have different like levels of shyness or may have different outward friendliness together. I think that's very good lah. That they have something in common also.
I think this links to something you mentioned just now also, like how you conduct yourself, right? So as a teacher, do you think your facial expressions, or maybe even more than that, right? Like the way you conduct yourself, your own like disposition and demeanors, like how does that affect how students respond to you? And could you share some examples of that?
It actually affects a lot. Like I think for myself, I'm a very expressive person. So my classes tend to be able to tell when I'm in a good mood or bad mood. It also has come to a point where they're able to tell whether I've had my coffee or not. Yeah, so they are able to identify all those kind of things. So they are very, very perceptive when it comes to these things. So they will bounce off your energy. So it's like, even if you don't mean to be very positive, they will bounce off your energy. I've had students who tell me, Miss Misha, I'm in a very low mood, but because you're so positive, I cannot help but smile. So these kind of things actually do happen quite a bit. So how you are and how you're expressive you are, your facial expressions really, really matter to them also. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Okay, so another question we have, right, is that as a do you think being a younger teacher, because you said you just recently graduated also, right? Like, does that influence how students perceive or trust you?
Yes. Yes, my phone is blowing up every day because a lot of students from different classes are texting me, because I think it helps that it's not really helping, but I feel that with my younger age, it also helps them to understand that, what I went through and what they're going through is not so different. So they tend to come to me more also like, Miss Misha, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. Because I think for them, some of them is a lot of their struggles is with online, their friends and all their conversations online. And some of these teachers, they did not have all this touch phone last time. So now with technology being so accessible, right, a lot of them, their how they feel and what happens to them comes from there also. So being a younger teacher, I would say that I do see that my class especially bounces off my energy and how much they actually do trust me a lot. A lot of their issues, everything, even if they're in class, they will seek the teacher's permission to come and find me and tell me. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think definitely your relatability and being able, the approachability also, right? Definitely plays a part in this, and yeah, it's really nice to hear that too.
Yes, thank you, Aidan. I think also we wanted to talk about proximity. We came across some research that shows, I think you yourself also said this, that simply being close, like sitting next to someone, can increase the likelihood of friendships forming. And I think as Jane has mentioned earlier about proximity, and you mentioned it seems to play the biggest factor in this. So I think my first question was wondering to what extent is that incredibly true in your profession and dealing with the boys and girls?
I think it's very true. I would say it's like 90% true. Like a lot of them, like because a lot of them come from Buffalove Primary to Buffalove Secondary, right? So they already know each other to a certain extent. Like even if I don't know I don't know your birthday, I know your name, I know what class you're from. So a lot of them, their circles are already interconnected with each other. But they may not be the best of friends. But then when they are put together in the same class, having same lessons, same teachers, they tend to become closer. Like my class, they were all from different classes. But then because they keep seeing each other and then they keep seeing the same teachers, they all like the same teachers, they dislike the same teachers, then it made them like become very, very close. Like I think like their parents actually call me, you know, like Miss Misha, can I check, is this friend a good influence? Because he wants to go out with this friend. Then I'll be like, okay, then I'll share my own perspective. So then it's gone to like further that, you know, after school they hang out with each other, weekends they will go out with each other to eat, to study, sometimes that kind of thing, yeah.
So I assume you're one of the teachers that they prefer.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I also wanted to ask, I think given that you see these groups of friends maybe together each and every day, how much do you tend to know about what goes on in their daily lives? Because I recognize as a teacher, you know, there's that, how to say, that there's always going to be that barrier between the students and the teacher. But I think specifically since you not study, but teach at Buffalove, maybe perhaps you need to have a more closer eye on these individuals as well. So I wanted to know, like, to what extent do you find yourself knowing truly like how these kids are?
I feel like every day is a ball game. You never know what you're encountering every day. Every day proves something different because as much as how much we know them, there may be underlying triggers and like underneath the iceberg, we may never know what is going on unless we delve deeper. But I would say that from their conversation and things, we would know to a certain extent because some of them, they do struggle with like private and personal things, so they'll just share. But like as a teacher myself and also wanting to respecting my students, I usually, even if I hear, I will not share anything with them unless they come and tell me first. So that's how I think like I maintain my relationship with them also. Like whatever I hear, I'll always keep in mind that I'm hearing this from other people. What I want to hear first is I always tell my students, I want to hear it from you first. Because you are the person that I'm directly caring for. I know these other students, but I know you best. So anything you come to me, I don't want to hear from other people. And that's what I tell them to tell each other also. Don't go and fill the gossip mill. That's what I always tell them. Talk to each other and find out what they are saying themselves. If it's not coming from their mouth, don't believe it because words can be twisted. And I always tell them, you may not know what the other person is truly meaning. One English word can mean 4 different things. And if you choose to focus on the negative, you will never know if you're actually talking about the positive. Yeah.
I think that's good practice and a good precedent to set for students as well, to make sure not necessarily same thing as the internet, don't believe everything you see on the internet. Sometimes you can't necessarily believe everything that comes from your peers also. I think I also wanted to ask, there are a lot of like group work and obviously sitting arrangements that happen in this school, right? I wanted to ask, when friendships form because of these kind of things, like group work, being seated together, maybe it's their first time seeing each other, do these friendships like usually last, or would you say it's more situation based, like we are friends just for this group project, we're friends just because we sit together, but when we're outside the classroom, I'm gonna hang out with a different group of friends? Is that something that you notice?
I would say situation based, but something interesting I noticed is that if let's say two people, student A and student B are grouped together for a group project, right? But then student A has their own friendship group outside, student B has their own friendship group outside. I would say that sometimes both friendship groups will end up coming together. Yeah, so because student A, student B, they become friends, then they all individually friend with each other, right? Then they end up like being able to talk to each other, hang out with each other also. So usually during like recess and stuff, we do see a lot of big groups playing, like even though they don't all know each other very well, but they're able to talk to each other and they'll all play like games like Uno and chess and all those kind of things in recess. Yeah.
So you usually have like board games that is accessible for these children during this time to help them. Is it mainly to help them with the bonding and stuff?
It's to help them with bonding, but surprisingly, a lot of these games actually they bring themselves from home also. So the Uno actually is the students are bringing themselves from home. Then they will bring all those like big board games, Risk Battleship. So all these kind of things they'll bring it and then they'll play with each other during recess. Yeah.
I like the point about like, two friend groups joining together. It's like worlds collide in that sense. And the thing also brings about the unity between students, students from different worlds and different places. Yeah. I think also another aspect of the article that we were researching on is not only does proximity play a factor in friendships, but also homophily, which is like, forming and maintaining relationships with people of similar gender, race, interests, that kind of stuff. I think Jiren also mentioned that. And a lot of times, this aspect of homophily challenges this idea of proximity. So I kind of wanted to ask, I think you mentioned this earlier as well, like what are the kinds of similarities that seem to matter most in who becomes friends?
Kind of similarities. Nowadays is you have WhatsApp or not? So I will notice like people with handphone is one group of friends. People who don't have handphone but can use MS Teams or PFD is another group of friends. So all these kind of things they come into play, or like same CCA become friends. So our school has like one very prominent CCA. Everybody from there becomes like good friends. Then same CCA. Then some like to play soccer together. There is another group of friends. Then they all tend to intermingle, that kind of thing. Yeah. So sometimes even to us, we are surprised at the friendships we see, because we see like some high need student being friends with another high need student. But the thing is, they don't both actually have no friends. But like they are like avoiding everyone around them. But when it comes to each other, they actually like talk to each other quite well. So it's like really sometimes we cannot really predict with them like what is their friendship and like formed on. Yeah, but a lot of it's like same interest, same gender. Usually it's all the boys play soccer together. Then all the girls will be sitting, eating, reading, that kind of thing. But sometimes the boys will come and join the girls reading, and the girls will watch the boys play soccer, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So you would say it's just mainly like similar interests, but not only similar interests, like how their situation is, in the sense like whether they have handphones, whether they communicate through WhatsApp, whether they communicate through these kind of things. Yeah, it's very interesting. I think I wanted to segue into this aspect. I think you mentioned about like boys and girls interacting. And I think with that in mind, obviously, I don't know if you'll be able to notice whether a guy likes a girl, that kind of stuff. But I think I just wanted to first ask, like, what are the friendship dynamics usually like between the boys and girls in school? Like boys and girls together?
Usually from the few that I see, because my class is actually all boys, so I don't really get to see much, is that they have like they like to play same game, or they like to read same book. Usually the guys will look after the girl, like, we need to protect her from this boy because this boy is stalking her, that kind of thing. Yeah. So a lot of those kind of things, like a lot of the boys will get very protective of the girl, but then the girl will be like, you don't need to protect me, I just don't talk to him, that kind of thing. So the girls are very defensive of themselves. But it's a lot of that kind of thing lah. But also like there are the few that the boys will seek out the girl, then they'll discuss like what they like to read, that kind of thing. So it's a lot of the different types. But this one, unfortunately I cannot share too much because my class is all boys.
Yeah. I think I'm not very sure how appropriate this is, because I think as a teacher you also don't want to speculate. But have you seen any cases of like maybe boys and girls becoming like in a relationship, like open boyfriend and girlfriend for students to see?
There's more than you would think. They'll float it everywhere, and then like sometimes their mouths, at teenagers, your mouth will just tend to talk about other people. So that will reach my ears also.
Yeah.
But there is quite a few here and there. Yeah, and you'll be surprised at how long some of them have been together also.
Would you say like since primary school even?
Since primary school, I've heard of since primary school until they graduate until now.
Wow, that's very interesting. And is this something that you usually intervene in? Is this something that I know that you're like in all boys class, but do you find yourself with guys in your class that have girlfriends, and you find yourself intervening in this situation?
Like not my class. Like my class doesn't have if they have relationships, it's not with students in the school. It's with students out of school. So I'll just remind them, do what is right. I cannot force you to do things, but just remember that you are still a young teenager. But for those where we see it might be reaching a level, we will remind them that you're still in school, because at the same time we want them to be you can do what you want, but we also have to manage parents' expectations. Yeah. So we do remind them that you all must still remember you're a different gender, what you can do, what you cannot do, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think as we end this discussion about proximity, I just wanted to ask, especially since interests and shared situations seems to be a very common factor, do you think that proximity still helps children even if they were to be very different from one another?
I think yes. Even in the smallest things, like, having a buddy to eat with for recess, or like just having a playmate for like 30 minutes, right? I would say that proximity matters a lot lah. Like, if you know that person will be there, you will seek out that person. Then especially as you grow older, I would think that, I seek out that person, I'll be able to form a conversation with them, I'll be able to know them more. So I will get to know them on a slightly deeper level than what I did know them like last time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also, have you like seen cases where simply placing students in the same group, in the same proximity, like, how do I say it? Maybe the intention is to help form a friendship, but maybe it didn't necessarily happen otherwise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, it happens more than you think lah. Some of them, sometimes it's really like, sometimes it's more of, they can be friends, but because with our students, sometimes their perspective taking and all that we have to take into consideration also. So because of that, they tend to clash with each other more than others also. Yeah.
Would you say there's more fights than friendships?
There will be more fights, especially at their age. It's the intensity of the fight also lah. Yeah. But yeah, usually they'll be like, it's more of like they hate bad opinion, that kind of thing. Then I will step in and be like, okay, what are you upset about? Or sometimes like, it can be something as simple as this boy wants to be friends and is sharing concern, but that other boy cannot catch that he is sharing concern. So then he will get upset at that boy. So then we have to intervene and be like, okay, can you please share what your intention is with him, and you share your thoughts on it with him. So it'll be like the middleman saying, see, you all had no ill intention, it's just that you all misunderstood each other. So we need to take a step back, and once you're ready, you all can talk to each other. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think before
Sorry,
we move on
I had one question in mind for Misha. Can I just ask, so because, a lot of friendships are formed based on proximity, right? But, because a lot of friendships are based on proximity, right? But then let's say if like the students like maybe change to a different class, or like they quit the CCA. So is it like more often than not, then they will just stop being friends in that case because they're not like together already?
Not really.
No.
I would say that no. I think maybe for Sec 1, Sec 2, sometimes that's the case. But Sec 3, Sec 4, Sec 5, because they've known each other for a while already, right? So they will still seek each other out, or like their comfort is with people people they know in the previous class. So sometimes they'll seek out the people from the previous class also, while still trying to form the basic friendships in the new class. But because they feel that people in the older classes, the Sec 1, Sec 2 classes know them better, so they'll still tend to go and share more things with the people in the older classes. Yeah.
Okay. So it's more like they already have some sort of attachment to their previous friends, like, even though they might not be.
Correct.
Okay. Interesting. Thanks. That helps. That really answers my question.
So we wanted to ask, between first impressions, like appearance, or maybe between that and proximity, which do you think plays the bigger role in forming friendships among children?
Bigger role, I think maybe proximity. Because I feel like first impression is the first impression, but if you spend enough time with that person, you'll eventually see that, this person is not as horrible as I thought they were. Because that's actually what happened in my class. So my boys has like this poker face all the time, right? So his face is just black all the time. Then one of my other boys is like, Misha, I want to talk to him. His face is like that. He's gonna bully me. I'm like, take a chill pill and you talk to him nicely first. The boy actually just doesn't want to talk, but then he really cares for his classmate. Like, he will be the first one to care if anything happen. He'll be the first one to direct students away if anything happen. So then eventually they'll be like, this Misha, I can talk to him. And I'm like, yes, you can talk to him. See, it's not always how he look. Then I would like to tease them. First day you see, I always so angry, right? Now you think I'm angry or not? And they're like, no, you're very nice. You're one of the nicest teacher. I'm like, see, that's why y'all cannot judge a book by its cover. That's what I always tell them. Because they love to judge people. Yeah.
That's very interesting to hear. I think it's like, my name but not my story, that kind of thing. And
yeah, correct.
With proximity, that allows for that situation to happen. And I think you kind of basically answered the next question, which is basically, do you think proximity can override a negative first impression? And I think from what you mentioned, that seems to be very true. I think I also wanted to ask, do you find at times where proximity can override a good impression?
Yes, I think proximity can also override a good impression. really depends on how close the proximity is. I guess like sometimes people may get too comfortable, then they overshare, right? So sometimes when they start oversharing, then I have students who are like, Miss Misha, it's making me too uncomfortable. I don't want to know about this. Can I stop talking to him? So then I'll have to be like, you can, but maybe you just tell him first that sometimes like, these kind of things are private information that shouldn't be shared. Yeah. So sometimes it can override. But I believe that if it is like maintained and handled in time, the positive impression can still stay. But if you let it wither, right, it will just become a negative impression, like really negative impression. Yeah.
Yeah. I think basically what you're saying is like yes, you can have like similar interests, you can like this person's appearance, that kind of stuff. But ultimately the root of what builds relationship is always going to be proximity, because without that communication between one another, without getting to know a person one another, it's not possible to make these genuine connections, these genuine friendships, maybe even relationships at that point. That's basically what
Yeah. Like one of my students, I think like cause some of them they will transfer out to mainstream schools, right? One of his best friends actually transferred out. So he'll always tell me that, Miss Michelle, we don't see each other anymore. So I feel like he's not like my good friend really because we don't see him. Yeah, so it's like they also can sense it in the real that, if I'm not close to him, I don't talk to him, we are not as good friends. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's like whenever we come out of primary school to secondary school, we don't talk about primary schools once more. Secondary school to JC Poly, we don't talk to our secondary school friends anymore. That kind of thing, yeah. But I hope that kid's doing alright.
He's doing okay. He's learning. The most important part is he's learning. Every day is a learning curve for him.
Sure. Yeah. I think we can move on to the next point. And Eden, would you like to close? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for like sharing all of these like various experiences that you have that really is very meaningful and like it's just wonderful, right? Yeah. We have come to the like towards the end of the podcast already, but like we have one last question for you, which is to summarize and to close. Is there anything else you want to share with us, or maybe like a takeaway that you would like to share with us and the audience to take note of for things that you've been doing in work, but also anything in general?
Like generally for relationships wise, I feel like we just need to be a bit more open-minded in general. Like I guess the struggles back then are different from the struggles now, especially with the emergence of technology, right? So what we say to this younger generation actually really matters. Because like I guess it also goes for us with like our parents and stuff. Their struggles are different from our struggles are different from their struggles. So I guess like for like this younger generation, for my students and stuff, it helps when you have an open ear to them. Just be more willing to listen. You don't need to have the answers, but to really keep like helping them, we just need to all be a little bit more passionate. Like even if you think that you cannot handle it, just tell them that if someone will help you, it will always make a difference like to them also. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
You all have any other questions? Nico and GF.
I think from me, it's just more of like, what do you think maybe we as adults, we can learn from how kids make friends?
To just listen to everyone out. I guess sometimes as adults, we tend to shut someone out when like we don't agree with their topic, whatever they're saying, or like we don't particularly like them. But with kids, sometimes they tend to just listen and then they'll hear more and they'll speak more also. So I guess it's something we can learn from them also. Yeah, sometimes you know the bigger picture, you really just have to listen. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen. Don't let negative first impressions affect you so much, right? So,
correct, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's very interesting. Sorry. I think that's very interesting because like you mentioned about how like these kids are like to just be more open, to just be like interested in the other person and like to like also be genuine, right? To like be able to see to see the other person for who they are, but also to like respond to that like appropriately and like respectfully too. Yeah. Also I just wanted to say that like I think what you mentioned about just being open and interested in the other person is like it's such a good trait, and maybe that's something for all of us to also like take note of and like maybe grow in for ourselves too as adults. Just being authentic and open and interested in the other person allows that space to be created to go beyond just the surface level and like really also then form these friendships and like meaningful relationships too with one another.
think that's very important, even in the workplace, even in class. Until today, I do learn a lot from my students the same way that they learn from me, because I think that their mindset is, in the way they view things is quite different as neurodivergents to like neurotypical people also. So even like different, like for them, some of them have like ADHD and anxiousness, right? So even them as neurodivergents, what they learn and see from each other is also very, very different in terms of perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, if we have no more, do you all have any more questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, if we have no more questions, then like, yeah, we just really want to thank you for your time, and yeah, this interview was very interesting, and yeah, I think it was a really like amazing opportunity to have like this experience shared by you.
Thank you so much for letting me share. I do really like working here, so it's always a joy to share like what I experience on the daily also, because I think that sometimes like they are misunderstood by a lot of people, but honestly they just express things in a different way as compared to us. So like for me, it's just really like heartwarming to be able to share, because I really do love my students and I want people to understand that they are still people, and you know, they just see things in a different way, and we also need to help them understand that seeing things in a different way is okay, and that we will listen to them also. So I thought it was really interesting to be able to share, because I think my class, their dynamics is very, very interesting. So yeah, especially
Thank
because
you
it's
so
like
much.
friendships. Yeah, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing all your experiences with us. Yeah,
Thank
it was really great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thought it was over? Cue the sponsor.
You're literally like a sibling to me.
Escape the friend zone kit.
Hey, I like you. I don't think I can just be friends.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Escape the friend zone kit.
Now,
Wow, thank you so much, Misha. That was such a fun and an exciting and insightful interview that we just held. I think after gathering and sitting with our thoughts, Chantal, what are some of the connections that you think we can draw from her and the research we held?
I think looking back at our interview with Misha, there are some signs of alignment that she stated in her interview, like the role of proximity and similarity. So, having shared classes and repeated daily interaction were some of the main reasons why her students became friends. And she also noticed that her students often group together based on similar interests, CCAs, and even gender. So I think these examples show that by spending more time together, these students can naturally have more chances to talk to each other and interact with each other, and thus they became more comfortable with one another and eventually started to trust each other more. So I think this shows that proximity can create opportunities for connection, and similarity can shape how these friendships grow more easily. Other than that, she also highlighted the importance of first impressions. So for children, they often make quick judgments based on appearance. So they kind of tend to look at things at face value. So if someone were to look more friendly or appear more happier, it kind of signals more safety for them to approach these people. So I think this also aligns with one of our articles by Lee and colleagues. Do you have any additional opinions or differing views?
Yeah, I picked up on quite a few during this interview. I think one thing was regarding facial age and trust. One of the articles that we studied said that older faces equals to them being more trusted. And even though, I guess in this sense it is true because Misha is naturally, as a teacher, older than her students, we also note that Misha is technically one of the younger teachers in her school, and she feels that being a younger teacher helps students gain her trust more, in some sense where she becomes more relatable and I guess closer to their experience. And I think in turn she feels that the students believe that maybe I'm not that much different from Misha because, you know, this age gap is much smaller than maybe me and a much senior teacher. I think something that you also mentioned was proximity in a more positive light, but I think something that she mentioned is that proximity can actually worsen and perhaps override these good impressions. She mentioned how like getting too comfortable with a peer or perhaps oversharing may cause them to feel like maybe I'm not comfortable being around you, maybe I want to distance myself around you. And this is something that we actually learned with like the mirror exposure effect, where these exceptions do exist. If the initial reaction is negative, familiarity may not increase the liking in that sense. I think ultimately this leads to the biggest takeaway, in which, yes, there is first impressions, there is similarity, which are all very important, but ultimately it is true proximity, it is true this close contact with this person it is true proximity as the single best predictor of building relationships that is the major driver of friendship and relationship formation. It is because, consistent contact creates more opportunities to talk, and this leads to two different things where you become more comfortable or less uncomfortable with this person, and you're able to build trust with this person or perhaps destroy trust because of proximity. And it's really proximity that makes these relationships meaningful, because without the face-to-face contact, without actually speaking to this person, we can't make relationships in the first place. Yeah, so it's not always positive, but it really depends on how the relationship is handled. I think with that being said, are there any implications that you found after all of this?
Yeah, I think if we were to apply this in real world relationships, I think it can remind us to not heavily rely on first impressions, because they can sometimes be misleading and they tend to change over time once there is more interaction. So I think schools and educators can tackle this by supporting healthier relationship development. So they can intentionally build opportunities for repeated interaction, and they can do this through assigned seating arrangements or having more group work. And in Misha's interview, she also mentioned having life skills lessons. So this helps students create like communication scripts for social connection. And I think it can apply more for students who are shyer and have lower self-esteem. And other than that, I think much of our existing research kind of focuses on these processes of proximity, first impressions, and attraction on neurotypical populations in conventional environments. So therefore, I think for future research, we can expand on how these processes work in more diverse real-world settings. So like in neurodiverse populations and school environments that are shaped by technology. And yeah, with that, I think we are running out of time, Kiko. Do you think we should wrap the podcast up?
Yeah, we definitely should. Just like to thank you all once again for listening to us, and stay tuned for the next time that we'll see you all. So take care, and we hope to see you guys again.
Okay.
Bye.